Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. This is the 38th part of What If Deku Had a Robot Wolf. I hope you enjoy. Link to the original story and author in the description. Chapter 38, Interns Arrive. We're here, Durandal said as the train came into Hosa Station. Izumi nodded as she stood up and made her way towards one of the doors. It was a long train ride to Hosu, lasting a few hours. But she had Durandal with her to keep her company, as well as a few things to keep her occupied. Although, if anyone asked about it, she'd say it was for research purposes. Yes, research into quirks. Damn it, Momo, why did you have to be such a good writer? When the train came to a stop and the doors opened, the two departed from the train and made their way out of the station. Once they were out, Izumi looked at the instructions she was given to make her way to the team Ida 10, but all the instructions said was wait at the station. All right. I guess he's coming here to pick us up, Izumi remarked, or one of his sidekicks. He is the number 7 pro hero after all. Or it could be one of his other interns, a female voice purred into her ear. Izumi jumped with a yelp before turning towards the voice, finding herself staring at a girl wearing the uniform of CI Academy. The girl was tall, with a well-endowed and almost perfect-looking body with a foreign complexion. She had long red hair and brown eyes that seemed to sparkle in the light and was very beautiful. Izumi tried and failed to suppress her blush. The girl before her was tantalizingly beautiful, it was almost alien. But not unnatural enough to make you think, yep, you are definitely not human. But then again, quirks are weird, and some give people odd-looking heads and bodies. Where the fuck did she come from? Durandal remarked, having not detected the girl approaching them. Not even Izumi heard her coming, and she had very good hearing. She needed to after all. The girl before her chuckled apologies about that. I'm rather good at sneaking up on people, she said with a smile. Whilst she spoke Japanese well, her accent wasn't, it was British. You're Yusako, right? The girl who won the UA Sports Festival. Oh, yes, that's me, Izumi said nervously, but that's just my hero name. I'm Izumi Midoriya, and this is Durandal. It is good to meet you too, the girl said. I'm Rolls-Royce Phantom, of CI Academy. Pardon? Izumi said, looking surprised. That's this girl's name? Rolls-Royce Phantom. What? You're named after a British luxury sedan? Durandal remarked, are you an alien? The girl, Rolls, sighed and dropped her head. Why do people keep asking me that? She grumbled before she looked back up. No, I am very much human. I am not an alien who's from a small planet somewhere in the vicinity of Betelgeuse. My parents just liked the manufacturer and named me after it. It doesn't help that my family name is Phantom, she said, and yes, I've watched The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy and understand the reference. And am oh so very tired of it. Oh, sorry about that, Izumi said. The name just caught me off guard a bit. So, what's a student from CI doing here? Internship, Rolls replied, causing Izumi to look surprised. Come now, UA isn't the only hero school that sends its hero students out on internships. All of them do. We just don't get much publicity, or the chance to work with high-ranking pros. Oh, I see, Izumi said with a frown. It's understandable that other schools wouldn't be able to acquire internships with the popular heroes, since UA gets all the attention. So, who are you interning with? Well, you could say that I'm a bit of a special case, Rolls said. I'm interning with Ingenium. Which, by the sounds of it, you are too, if your number 7 comment is to be believed. Izumi beamed. You're interning with Ingenium as well. Well, now we know who's going to guide us there, Durandal remarked. How did you manage to get an internship offer from him anyway? Rolls sighed. As much as I would like to say I somehow managed to impress him, I didn't. He just sent me an internship request last year because I'm named after a car. Oh, Izumi said quietly. That's not a great reason. But she still got to intern with one of the top 10 heroes, even if the reason isn't great. Yes, well, since this is my second year here, I can help guide you there. Follow me please, Rolls said. Wait, second year, Izumi said as she followed Rolls. You're a second year? Yep, Rolls replied. The provisional licensing exam is only open to second and third years, so I haven't gotten mine yet. As a result, I'm stuck with internships until I can get my provisional license later this year. Which no doubt I will be able to get. My quirk is quite powerful. Okay, well, I'll be in your care then, Izumi said with a smile before an open notebook appeared in her hand. What is your quirk, by the way? It's a combination quirk. Rolls replied with a smile, not at all bothered by the sudden appearance of Izumi's notebook. I call it mental control. It gives me both telepathy and telekinesis. Izumi had to fight the urge to freeze on the spot and stop walking. That sent one hell of a red flag. Telepathy and telekinesis, in one package. That was concerning, very concerning. Both of these abilities seemed rather odd to be together in one package, especially since Eri has similar abilities in addition to her quirk. She wasn't going to jump to conclusions just yet. There was plenty of telepathy and telekinesis out there that a combination of the two was bound to show up after a while. But that didn't mean she wasn't going to be cautious around the girl. It was a suspicious combination to have since Eri also had that combination, and they weren't quirks. Durandal realized it as well but didn't voice it. He also didn't remark on the girl's shoes, which were red. Okay, that's interesting, Izumi said nervously. You okay? Rolls asked, looking concerned. If you're worried about me reading your mind without permission, don't worry, I don't do that without permission. Oh, right. That's nice, Izumi said nervously. Even if that wasn't what she was worried about. She was going to have to be careful during the next couple of days. Chiharu stood inside the Yabami agency. Standing beside her was Atsuka, 1BS class representative, who was carrying her hero costume in its case. Something she lacked since there just wasn't time to design or make one for her. She had met the girl a few times during school council meetings, but she never really got a chance to talk to her properly. She was actually surprised that someone with the hero name Battle Fist would intern with a non-combat hero. Honestly, she was glad Yabami sent her an internship, as all the other heroes who sent her internship forms were more combat-focused heroes, and right now, that's not what she needs. Learning to fight is a good idea, yes, but at the moment, she needs to learn how to manage both being a hero and working in a management role. And Yabami was the only option she had that covered both. Before them sat the snake hero herself, sitting at a dressing table whilst two of her sidekicks applied makeup to her. She was a curvy woman with long blonde hair styled in curly locks. Her eyes were gold with vertically slit pupils, although her right eye shined like actuarial gold. There were also 4 snakes protruding from her hair, a rattlesnake, a yellow king cobra snake, a Japanese rat snake, all of which had burn marks on them, and a 4th malformed snake that lacked a mouth and was covered in green veins. She was wearing a maroon dress with scale-like details with matching high heels and a choker, and had golden snake-like bracelets on her wrists and ankles. Chiharu had seen many pictures of the woman, but never had she seen her without makeup. But now she wished she hadn't. The right side of Yabami's face was scarred, burned even, especially around the eye. One of the woman's sidekicks was busy applying makeup to hide it and doing a very good job of it. But then there were the green veins covering her body as well, which her other sidekick was busy hiding. She knew Yabami had been injured during the Avalon War, and that she had been affected by mutator's gas, but she didn't realize the effects of both affected the woman so badly. Not a pretty sight, now is it? Yabami said, I don't exactly like to show people this side of me, far too many bad memories from both incidents for my liking. But I like those who work for me to trust me, and hiding things from them won't help in that regard. Even if it's just old wounds and unwanted mutations, she said as she stroked one of the snakes on her head with her right hand. Only then did Chiharu notice that 4 of the 5 fingers on Yabami's right hand were prosthetic. Anyway, I'm glad you two decided to pick me for internships, Yabami continued. There are far too few women in heroics, especially after the Avalon War. Too many women in the industry focused on sex appeal over protection and paid the price for it with their lives. But, on another note, Chiharu, your mother's Chitos Kazuki, right? She asked, sending a glare towards the blue-skinned girl. Chiharu sighed. Yes, Chitos is my mother. No, my presence here does not in any way, shape or form represent Shueisha Publishing. I'm a business management student who somehow got offered to become a hero, not a media vulture. Well, that's good to hear, Yabami said with a smile. I can't stand that woman. Well, that makes two of us, Chiharu said, letting out a relieved sigh. She knew for a fact that her mother once published an article about heroes and their side jobs, and had sent a rather nasty jab towards Yabami. So it was good that she was able to clear up quickly that she does not represent her mother's interests. She also knew that her mother was a few days away from publishing another article that contained another jab at Yabami, specifically her use of internships. And oh, her daughter was now interning with the woman she was trying to discredit. That's a media clusterfuck waiting to happen. Oh, she was going to enjoy watching the fireworks from that one once word got out that she indirectly discredited her own daughter. Now then, you two won't be doing much during your internships here, Yabami continued, just covering the basics, doing some patrols, light sparring, and mock paperwork. Normal stuff all heroes have to go over. Maybe a few costume critiques, or in Chiharu's case, actually design her a costume. Oh hey, would you look at that, an actually useful internship and help in designing a hero costume? This was exactly what Chiharu was hoping for. Wait, no commercial work? Itsuka asked. I heard from one of my classmates that you only take on cute girls as interns so they can appear in your commercials. Oh, that, Yabami replied, looking slightly annoyed. You've got Shueisha Publishing to blame for that misconception. You're here to learn how to be heroes, not models. I'd be in deep shit if I tried to use your internships as free labor for my commercials. Only my sidekicks appear in them. You should ask your classmate about where he got his source from, Chiharu added. My mother tends to use biased sources. Itsuka nodded, letting out a sigh of relief. She was going to have a word with Yosetsu when she got back. Now that little misconception is sorted out, we can dash, Yabami said before she suddenly cried out in pain, clutching her side. Yabami! Her two sidekicks gasped before both of them moved quickly. One kept an eye on her whilst the other quickly got out a syringe of sorts and jabbed it carefully into Yabami's neck. A few moments later the woman calmed down, resting against the table but looking a bit pale. What was that? Itsuka asked, a worried look on her face. Genetic instability, Yabami replied, her breathing weak. Not everyone who mutated that day did so perfectly. Some of us had instabilities due to forced mutations. It's not bad, these instability attacks only appear once or twice a month. But, the stabilizer drug is only a temporary solution, and can't fully counteract the effects. I have, at best, 10 to 15 years left. The two girls frowned. Neither of them had realized that Yabami was living on a time limit. But, this was something they would have to be prepared for when they become fully fledged heroes. It takes its toll on you. Only 1 in 4 heroes live to retire after all. Anyway, that's enough of that, Yabami said as she got up and walked over to them. There was a slight limp to her walk, just barely noticeable, but it was there. Let's get you girls into your hero costumes. Chiharu, you can use one of the spare ones we have here. I'm sure we have something that can fit you. Chiharu nodded, grateful for the substitute hero costume. Maybe it'll help her design her own one. Toru did not know what she was expecting when she met the hero she would be interning with. She expected a hero named Shinigami to be creepy and mysterious and whatnot. They are named after a god of death after all. She expected them to be terrifying. Not this. She stood on one side of an open door to an apartment located in a rather downtown area. Before her, on the other side of the door, stood a tall woman who looked young and slim, with black, messy hair tied into long messy twin tails. Her face was scarred and pale, with chapped and uneven lips. Her eyes were dark brown, and there were scratch marks over her neck. She was wearing blue jeans and a long-sleeved white shirt but was completely barefoot. And her posture was, well, she was hunched forwards. You are, Ryazaki? Toru asked nervously, remembering the instructions she had been given. One of them was to call the hero by the name Ryazaki, not Shinigami. Yep, that's me, the woman said, her voice sounding strange, familiar. Even your Toru Hagakure, I presume. You are, yes, that's me, Toru said nervously. Good, the woman said before she stepped to the side. Please, come in and make yourself at home. Toru nervously entered the woman's apartment and looked around. It looked normal. Spacious, yes, but oh so normal. So you are, this isn't what I was expecting from a hero agency, Toru remarked as she looked around. I'm an underground hero, we don't have agencies, Ryuzaki said as she sat down on the sofa in a crouch, both her feet on the sofa. Unlike limelight heroes, underground heroes like me work in the shadows. We move around a lot more than them as well, so we don't tend to have all of our possessions in one place. Slight warning, don't expect us to stay in this apartment for the entire internship. I'm working on a case at the moment, so we might have to relocate once or twice. Okay, noted, Toru said, sitting down opposite Ryuzaki. Honestly, this was not what she was expecting when she chose to intern with Shinigami. Hell, she didn't even know why she decided to intern with her in the first place. There were several heroes from the 40 available that could help her develop her quirk, but why didn't she go with them? Why did she go here? So, why did you pick me? Ryuzaki asked. Well, you were the only hero who sent me an internship request, Toru replied. Why was that, by the way? I only made it to the second round. Curiosity, Ryuzaki replied. Your hero name, Invisible Girl, is rather generic. A quick Google and you find several pre-quirk fictional heroes who go by the same name, as well as a few books and movies. Yeah, it's just a placeholder, Toru said. I don't really have a real hero identity yet. I don't know what my identity should be. I know being invisible will be helpful in heroics, but I never came up with an identity for myself. I see, Ryuzaki said. Well, you're still in your first year of hero school, so you're bound to come up with something. Anyway, so, you're invisible? Toru nodded, even if it was impossible to notice. Yes, been so since birth. I've never been able to see my own face, because of it, she explained. It wasn't a great existence, being completely invisible, being unable to see yourself, but she got used to it. Ryuzaki nodded before she reached over to a nearby fruit bowl and picked up an apple, but she held one finger out. She brought the fruit closer and clamped down with her last finger. The effect was immediate, the fruit started to wither and die, rotting away in her hand. This is my quirk, rot. Anything organic I touch rots away, she said before she threw the now rotten piece of fruit into a nearby bin. Not the nicest way to go, mind you, but I've never used it on a human before. Well, not long enough to kill them anyway. Toru gasped at the display, at how quickly the fresh apple rotted in front of her. It was a horrifying quirk. And she had used that on a person. To be fair, Izumi did warn her that underground heroes tend to be a bit more violent and are more prone to killing villains. The lack of media attention on them meant that they could deal with the more horrific villains they find how they see fit. They worked in the shadows after all, and the darkest of hearts are found in the darkest of places. But still, it can't have been a nice feeling to have a part of your body rot away like that. But the woman's quirk itself was so dangerous. One touch and her body would start to rot. It was a lot like Dash. It was a lot like that villain's quirk from the USJ. She was actually glad her body was invisible because that way Ryuzaki couldn't see the horrified look on her face. Was this woman related to him somehow? She never saw the villain, but she heard about him from those who did. Izumi gave a very detailed description of the man, and now that she thought about it, the woman before her had some of the same characteristics as the handsman. You seemed worried, Ryuzaki remarked. I mean, well, your quirk is a lot like a quirk that belonged to one of the villains at the USJ, Toru said, trying to hide how scared she sounded. Is that so? Ryuzaki said, suddenly looking rather interested. Well, that's quite interesting. Sadly, I'm probably not related to him. All my family's dead. Anyway, you're probably tired after such a long journey, so I recommend that you get some rest. The night is when underground heroes like me are more active, she said before she picked up a controller and started playing a game on the TV. Toru was just baffled and confused. She just told this woman that there was a villain out there with a similar quirk to her, and maybe looks like her too, and she just brushed it off and started playing video games. To be fair, it wasn't all that surprising when you think about it. There were a lot of quirks out there that were similar. Fire quirks were a dime a dozen after all. Still, she couldn't help but feel like she made a mistake coming here, or wonder why she chose to come here in the first place. What did she hope to learn or gain by interning with this woman? She just hoped that she had an answer to that question when the week was over. Nito Monoma knew he probably wasn't going to get any internship offers. He did eat shit on live TV when Momo shot him in the dick, again. So he probably wasn't going to have heroes lining up to send him internships. Thankfully he, and all the others who didn't do well had a pool of 40 heroes to choose from. And just his fucking luck that he picked the exact same hero, a certain explosive blonde. There he stood, in his UA uniform, holding the case that contained his hero costume. Standing next to him was Katsuki Bakugo, the boy responsible for tormenting Izumi for almost 10 years. Great. Why did the universe hate him? Was this karma for something he did? Was he a colossal dick in some past life or something? Well, this was going to be an insufferable internship. Before them stood the rocket hero, Blast Off, one of the 40 pros UA had partnered up with. He was a man wearing a full-body suit that tried to look like a rocket. Tried to, that is. Well then, so you're the two who will be interning with me, Blast Off said, his smile hidden behind his mask, which looked utterly ridiculous. Yep, Katsuki said, sounding bored. We'll be in your care, Nito said with a slight bow. Great. Get into your hero costumes and follow me. Blastoff said before he turned and rocketed off, but forgot that they were inside, and smashed into the ceiling. Both boys sweat dropped. How the hell did this guy become a hero? Well, this is going to be an interesting and insufferable internship. Katsuki sighed. Why did I have to get stuck with my third option? He muttered quietly. This wasn't his first choice? Nito thought. Well, that was interesting, this wasn't his first choice either. He wanted to go with the color Hero Pastel, due to her having an interesting and complicated quirk that had quite a lot of versatility. Copying that and learning how to use it would help him in learning how to use other complicated quirks quickly. Hell, Blastoff wasn't his second choice either, he was his third. But sadly heroes were only allowed to have a maximum of 2 interns, and UA wasn't the only school heroes sent internship requests to. So, he was stuck with his third option, and he hated it. He sighed, stuck in an internship with a hero who can't really help him and is also an idiot, with a fellow intern who he really didn't like. Well, it could be worse. Hitoshi was tired, oh so tired. Ms. Joke, or Emi Aizawa, apparently Shota always referred to her as Emi Fukukato to hide his marital status from everyone else. Emi on the other hand did no such thing, calling in one of their little jokes, had talked excessively on the way, mainly about how she and Shot first met, but not about how they ended up getting married in the first place. Which was odd, as by the sounds of things, Shota didn't really sound like someone who wanted to marry this woman. So why did he? So, what are we doing? Hitoshi asked as they approached Ketsubutsu Academy. There weren't any hero course students here, as like UA, they were all off on internships. Well, Sho told me how your quirk worked, and that you normally used insults to get a verbal response from someone. Emi explained. Whilst that can get a reaction out of some people, not everyone will react well to being insulted. Some may go into a rage and attack you. Or they might not work on them. So, during the week, we'll work on other ways to get a vocal reaction out of someone. Such as puns. Puns? Hitoshi said, sounding surprised. Why puns? What good are puns going to do me? Simple. Emi replied with a smile. Give me your most lamest pun you can come up with. What? Hitoshi thought. Puns? How was that going to help him? Oh well, might as well give it a shot. A lame pun, huh? Well, I'll give it my best. Pun? Emi let out an annoyed groan, but in doing so, Hitoshi felt something click, a feeling he got whenever the opportunity to use his quirk arose. Acting quickly, he used it on Emi, her expression going blank for a few moments before he released it. Holy shit, that worked, Hitoshi gasped. By the sounds of it, it did, Emi said with a smile. By the week's end you'll become a master of puns, jokes, gags. Well, this just got a hell of a lot more interesting. Now if only she would stop calling him a mini Shota, that would be great. Achiko may have made a mistake when she agreed to intern with Ryukyu. Yes, she can teach her how to fight whilst flying, and make it so that her fighting style isn't slap your opponent and hope for the best, but there was one small reason why this may not have been a good idea and that she should have gone with Gunhead instead. Said reason was currently hugging her like a plush toy they haven't seen in years. I'm so happy that you decided to intern with Ryukyu. Nijire said happily, unaware that she was smothering Achiko between her bosom. I'm just glad I'll have one of my snuggle buddies to keep me company this week. Achiko, who was by now very used to Nijire's cuddly nature, wasn't all that bothered by having her face smothered by a pair of nice tits. She had imagined being smothered by Izumi a few times, but she knew that would probably never happen. And if it did, Izumi would apologize profoundly for it. Yes, she was enjoying herself. Yes, she didn't mind if Izumi ended up dating this girl as well. She was all for a poly relationship after all. No, she was not going to go down that route just yet. Izumi is in a fragile state right now and she didn't want to jeopardize things by going too quickly. She'll let Izumi make the first move. So, Nijire said as she broke off the hug, if you could call that a hug. Ryukyu isn't here right now, she's busy planning for a villain raid, but I can show you around in the meantime, she said with a bright smile. Thanks, Achiko said before she followed the hyperactive girl around the agency. So, who's the rest of the snuggle squad interning with? Nijire asked. Well, Izumi's interning with Ingenium, Ms with Airjet, Momo's with Fat Gum, Himiko's with Native, and Sue's with Selkie. Oh, she's working with the adorable seal guy. Nijire said I've worked with him before during a joint operation. I wonder how Sue's going to handle living on a warship. What? Sue let out a confused croak as she looked at the Oki Mariner. She wasn't expecting much from the ship, just a simple coastal patrol boat, nothing too fancy. What she wasn't expecting, however, was a full-on frigate armed with torpedoes, depth charges, and a naval gun, among other things. At first, she wondered why a ship that focused on maritime missions would need to be armed to the extent of a JSDF warship, but then she remembered that there were plenty of armed warships and large seagoing villains that needed a good amount of firepower to deal with. Not to mention the Ark was still out there, the mechanist's pride and joy. A submersible command platform and robot factory where the man could build all kinds of machines. A boat that can, and has, sunk civilian ships. It stands to reason why a hero ship had to be so heavily armed when threats like that lurked beneath the waves. Well, time to meet the crew. It'll probably be fine, Nijire said with a smile. It's just a small warship after all. Anyway, you'll be staying here in the agency during your week here. We have living quarters here, so you won't have to spend the week in an apartment. Oh, that's a relief, Achiko thought, glad that living arrangements were covered by the heroes they were interning with. She didn't have the budget to cover a week's stay in a hotel, even if it was a cheap, crappy one. But, Nijire said with a smile, since we're both snuggle buddies, I expect nightly snuggles from you. Mother preserve me. Well, here we are, Roll said as they approached the Team Ida 10 agency. It was a large building, it had to be. Team Ida 10 had over 107 sidekicks as well as a large fleet of vehicles. They had a large area to protect after all. Izumi immediately started to fangirl at the sight of the agency, her prior worry all but gone. She had been mostly silent on the way here, worried about the girl she was walking with. The fact she had powers that sounded a lot like the non-court powers Eri had was a massive red flag, but there wasn't much she could do about it right now. Hell, she didn't even know if she was just being paranoid, and the girl really had a quirk that gave her telepathy and telekinesis. But, if this girl did have non-quirk related psionic powers, then how many other people were there who had similar abilities? And how did such powers come to be? Unfortunately, she couldn't really investigate it right now, not when she had someone who could easily read her own mind so close to her. She'd have to wait until she gets back to UA to look into this more. Couldn't risk investigating someone who could read her mind whilst around said person. Oh fuck, Rolls probably already knew that she knew about it. Well fuck. Her train of thought was derailed when someone came dashing up to them and slid to a stop. Izumi didn't even try to hold back her fangirling, as Ingenium came to a stop in front of them, wearing his full hero costume. Yes, she met him before, but he was still a hero. It was almost impossible for her to not fangirl around a hero. Hey, you three. Glad you could make it, Ingenium said. Sorry about not being able to pick you up myself, but I was busy with a case. Oh, don't worry about it, sir. I was able to guide the new intern here anyway, Rolls said with a smile. Thanks, Rolls. Ingenium said. Now then, Rolls, you already know where to go. Izumi, Durandal, follow me please. Right. Izumi said with a nod before she and Durandal followed Ingenium inside. Secretly glad that she wasn't near Rolls again because that girl's quirk was sus. Suspicious. It was suspicious, not sus. Damn it, Denki, that Among Us game night was messing with her. Anyway, what followed was a quick tour of the Ida-10 agency, which was exciting already. Being shown around by Ingenium himself only made it even more special. The agency was big, but from the inside, it felt bigger. There were office rooms for dispatch and analysis, a vehicle depot, landing pads for aircraft, a large cafeteria, an armory, a maintenance bay, a workshop, etc. As well as a large number of living quarters. So, enjoying the tour so far? Ingenium asked, but he told her to call in Tensei when not on duty. Izumi was vibrating with excitement. It's fantastic. It's so big. I'm glad you like it, Tensei said with a smile, having removed his helmet. When you have as many employees as we do, a large building is kind of necessary. We even rent out some space to smaller hero agencies and underground heroes so they have a place to stay without having to spend a fortune. Smart Durandal remarked, not everyone has the funds to run a proper agency after all. Gives new heroes a leg up as well as help settling in. Exactly, that's why my dad set it up in the first palace, Tensei said. Anyway, my younger brother told me that you wanted to intern with me to help teach you about fighting whilst wearing power armor as well as to help you with a new aspect of your quirk. Izumi nodded. Yep. As you saw during the sports festival, Durandal can form a suit of armor around me, but I don't have much training with it. And then there's my quick. I found out something new about it during the sports festival. That sudden bolt of speed during the end of the first round, that was new. Alright, that makes sense, Tensei said. You did collapse after doing that. So, do you know anything about how it works? Well, I underwent additional quirk counseling after the sports festival, to help me get a better understanding of it, but I still don't have full control over it, Izumi replied before she went on to explain how this new aspect of her quirk, Gearshift, worked. Gearshift allowed her to change the speed at which things accelerate through space, including herself, whilst ignoring the laws of inertia. This includes speeding things up, slowing things down, or stopping them completely. The side effects were bad. Too much use can cause her to suffer from hypoxia due to lack of oxygen to her body, and it took a lot out of her from using it, requiring an hour or so before it was safe for her to use it again. Recovery Girl advised her to not use it for more than 5 minutes, which was interesting as that was the same amount of time the second user of One for All told her was her limit. Icy Tensei said, having paid attention to everything Izumi had told him, that's a rather dangerous way to use your quirk. I know, that's why I'm planning to use it as a last resort at the moment, Izumi said, but even if I save it for that, it'll still be useless if I don't know how to properly use it. Agreed, you need to know how to use all aspects of your quirk in this job. Tensei said you can't just half-arse it and call it a day. Saw a lot of heroes die during the Avalon War because of that, and I'd rather not see the next generation of heroes suffer the same pitfalls as the previous one. We got complacent, and the world suffered for it. But that's enough about the past, we both lived through it and know the dangers, he said before he passed her a key. I'll give you half an hour to get settled in one of the rooms we have here. You had a long journey to get here, so no doubt you need some rest. Once you're finished, meet me in the lobby for your first patrol. Izumi beamed. She was going on a patrol with Ingenium. The only thing that could beat that was patrolling with All Might himself. She quickly made her way towards her allotted room, room 73, opened it, and walked inside. The room was small but cozy. Slightly smaller than the room she had back at UA, but this was a hero agency that, whilst big, didn't have the same available space or budget as UA, so it stood to reason why the rooms would only have the bare necessities, just luxury. Izumi sighed as she laid back on the bed. It was comfortable, very comfortable. But it was also rather lonely. She didn't want to be alone tonight. She hadn't slept alone since she started at UA, and it worried her. What if the nightmares come back? What if she couldn't sleep? She had Durandal and her Durandal plush by her side, but she didn't have Achiko with her or any of her other snuggle buddies. Maybe she should have organized things with the other members of the snuggle squad so that she had at least one other member interning here as well, just so she didn't feel so lonely. She closed her eyes, only to open them a few moments later when she felt something land on top of her. Looking up, she found herself met with a pair of golden yellow cat-like eyes. Hi, Himiko greeted her with a smile, laying on top of her. Himiko. Izumi said with a deep blush on her face. What are you doing here? Aren't you interning with Native? Indeed I am, Himiko replied, but, as it turns out, the Team Ida 10 agency has several smaller heroes working out of it as well, including Native. So, here I am, staying here alongside you, she said with a large smile as she moved in closer to her. So, what do you say, snuggle buddy? Do you want some snuggles from Himo? Izumi's blush went full atomic. Maybe she should have interned with Ryukyu alongside Achiko. That will be it for this part. I hope everyone enjoyed. If you did, please leave a like and comment if you want part 39. If you want to hear more from me, subscribe. I hope to see you all in the next one.